then based on the KY template which is prepared and confirmed with the resected specimen, we will do the osteotomy, and then after 20 minutes of flap perfusion, the pedicle will be divided, and remaining osteotomy will be completed on the side band. Donor site hemostasis will be achieved. Donor area must.
Acha, you always do it in situ osteotomy or back page osteotomy?
At the time when perfusion is going on, flap perfusion, that time we will start doing osteotomy, and if not completed, then we will do one.
Okay. Okay. For this KY template, how have you taken the measurements?
For discussion.
Okay. Go that slide. Discussion purpose.
Yes, ma'am. I have made it from another patient, ma'am, because I got only clinical picture of this patient.
So you don't pre-plate the patient at all. Do you know the concept of pre-plating a patient prior to mandibular? Because in Amrita we do that, and that's what literature usually does.
Yeah. Can you do pre-plating in this patient?
Yes, ma'am. We can prepare pre-operatively based on the 3D model, ma'am.
Okay. On the 3D model.
No. If you don't have a virtual model or I'm talking about
on the mandible itself before you do the excision, whether you can do pre-plating in this patient or no.
I'm not.
It's possible or not? No. Pre-plating before they make their cuts onto the mandible. You said it is 2 teeth away. Okay.
Yes.
So posteriorly there is only 1 molar. So you will be going at the angle. So is the mandible on your CT scan, was it a distorted mandible or a thickened mandible or something on the scan? That information is not with you, I think. If it is not a distorted mandible, it's not expanded mandible, you can do pre-plating, so you get an exact fit. Okay, because in this in excision, what is going to happen to your last molar in this case on the right side? It's going to go with the excision, I think.
Yes.
Or it's a classical middle third defect. It's a classical middle third defect, but I think it is more on the right side.
Yes, ma'am. I planned like a classical middle third only, ma'am.
Okay, fine. That's okay. So what are your measurements for, because you have not got the stereotactic model, so you are bending a KY template and doing it. So what would be the precautions that you will take in this patient? It's not pre-plating done, it's not a stereotactic model you have done or meant it, or sometimes you get 1:1 CT scan and you can plan it. Or nowadays a technique of, what is the latest people are doing it now? It is CAD/CAM technology. Okay, everything is pre-planned, you get a jig and you do it. That's the easy way out. But if it is not available, KY template is good enough. Only what precautions you will take when you are doing this? That's what I'm asking.
We would avoid.
How much? What is your central segment breadth over here?
Around 2.5 centimeter, ma'am.
So, okay. If there are any dented segment available, will you do a temporary IMF before you fix the mandible?
We'll do temporary IMF so that it will give a negative template.
Yeah, that's on the left side you can do in this patient, but right side you may not. For classical middle third, if you have adequate teeth on both sides, do a temporary IMF. So you don't add any more bone in that. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And what else? If it's not possible, but once you do it, okay, how you plan your osteotomies? It's a closing wedge osteotomy.
Closing wedge osteotomy. The plating will be on the peroneal surface, so osteotomy will be opposite to it, and we have to create a 120-degree angle. So osteotomy will be 60 degrees.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
So in this patient, which side of the, it's a bilateral neck, so which side of the neck vessels you plan to use?
Ma'am, in this patient, because I'm taking left.
I mean, imagine now, because you don't have the patient or the case in front.
Yes. Because I'm taking left side fibula, so pedicle will be on the left side. So left side facial vessels I'm planning, ma'am.
Why? It's a midline defect. You can use any side vessels. So why are you choosing only left side vessels? What will happen if you choose left leg fibula and left side vessels? How the skin drapes? Will it be easy for the skin to drape right up to the floor of the mouth and to the tongue?
No, ma'am, because
how will the skin paddle come in this?
Calf skin will go anteriorly. It should go inside. So yes, ma'am.
So see here, if you use left side neck vessels and left side fibula, then your skin paddle will be hanging into the neck and it will have to go up and drape.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
so will it be easy because your more defect is on the floor of the mouth and on the ventral aspect of the tongue? Okay. So you choose a contralateral vessel. Then your skin paddle will drape very easily and an intraoral defect is more. Okay. And it all depends on your leg flap skin turgidity also. Okay. When you have a choice, okay, or you choose the opposite side leg, like Dr. Deepak has said.
Yes.
Okay. Once you, what sort of fixation you will use?
Fixation with the reconstruction plate, ma'am, around 2 to 2.5 mm width of screws and 8 mm or 10 mm length of screws. Titanium plate.
Okay. Fine.
So you use a locking plate or a non-locking plate on the fibula?
Non-locking plate only.
So,
if you what is the difference between locking and non-locking plate? If you use a locking plate, what will happen? If you use a non-locking plate, what will happen? See, basically in mandible reconstruction, it is a plate which gives the contour. Okay.
Yes.
If you use a locking plate and if you drive a screw, the screw will stop after a certain point being driven into the fibula. And the fibula segments will not be drawn towards the plate because there is a stop in the plate. There's a groove in the plate which prevents you from further driving the screw inside the fibula. So you won't distort the fibula segments and theoretically you won't compress the periosteal blood supply. So usually we use a locking plate and it should be monocortical screws in the fibular segments and bicortical screws in the native mandible. And there are depth guides available. If you look at the Stryker or the Synthes kits, there are depth guides available where you can actually measure the depth after you've drilled the hole to find the screw. So ideally a non-recon plate is good because once you drive the screw inside, it will stop. You understand what I'm saying, no? It will grab onto the bone, but the bone won't move. If you use a non-locking plate, the further you torque the screw, the further the segment is going to move towards the plate.
Yes.
And it can damage the periosteum of the bone. And you're right, there was a message. What about mini plates? Ideally in a fibular reconstruction, you should use a load-bearing plate, not a load-sharing plate.
Yes, sir.
A reconstruction plate 2.5 or low profile 2 or low profile 1.8 or even 2.8s, they're all load bearing plates. So you need the load bearing plate to bear the loads of mastication. In this patient, load bearing, it can be a difficult thing because he has got no teeth. In an edentulous patient who's going to be on a soft pureed diet, you might get away by using a mini plate because you're not going to dentally rehabilitate them and they're not going to chew. But he is young, and theoretically, we can give him implants once he's cured of the tumor and things like that. So, recon plate is better, load-bearing plate is better, and like I said, use a plate which the screw stops after you drive it to a certain depth. I hope you understood that.
Yes,
that is the difference.
Yeah, that's in a locking plate. You cannot go beyond that once it gets locked in the slot. You have seen the recon plate, I think.
Yes, ma'am.
You have seen it or not? So, and after you fix this, because there is no pre-plating or anything, so what you should do once you fix this in place? First thing that you should try, because this is not pre-plating, this is not stereotypical model, this is your K-wire template. So what you should check once you fix everything in place?
Occlusion, ma'am.
Yeah, so undo your occlusion and get in occlusion with a single one finger movement, not forceful occlusion. If it comes all right, then your fixation is good. If it doesn't come, then what you will do? Then you'll have to correct it on table at that time only. You have to undo everything and fix it again.
Yes, ma'am.
Because post-operatively you cannot do it, and once you receive radiation, you will not touch that bone for a year. Okay, for fear of inducing osteoretinoporosis.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Okay. Now, this fibula is harvested along with the FHL or
Along with FHL.
without FHL? Along with FHL. Okay. There is a lot of floor of mouth defect, so this FHL will not trouble you. Otherwise, if you change the side of the anastomosis, this FHL will not allow it to come in place because of the bulk if the floor of defect is not there. Understood?
No.
What's the chance of osteointegration in this? Is there a possibility you can do it on table or you can do it later on? What would be the right thing to do? Not right thing. What would you like to do?
Ma'am, I would like to do a delayed one only, ma'am. Yes, my plan is to give radio.
Delayed. Yeah. So that will be after 1 year.
Yes, ma'am. After 1 year of.
Okay.
Actually,
after post RT.
There's
post RT 1 year.
There's some contention there because a lot of the recent literature, especially from MD Anderson and all that, they have said that, you know, on table, if you're planning implants, on table implants are better because implants usually integrate within 6 weeks. They have found that if you put an implant after 12 months, the chances of ORN are higher. So we don't know. There is no trial comparing both. But the more I read now about what has been published in the West, there is, people are moving towards primary dental implants than doing it at a year. But in this patient, it does not have any opposing teeth in the maxillary alveolus. So that whole...
He has normal upper teeth cholesterol.
Oh, his maxillary teeth is normal, is it? Then you can always argue for a primary implant. I'm sorry, I missed that part. Then you can always argue.
See, if patient is willing and you have the facility and the expenditure is not a problem, I think primary dental implant is advisable because the dental rehabilitation becomes much faster. It will get integrated like your plates and screws. Okay.
And
the loss is if you lose the flap, then you lose the implants also. That's the main thing. And your dental rehabilitation becomes much faster because you can touch the soft tissues once the RT effect is over. You don't have to do anything to the bone because your implants are already there. So his rehabilitation becomes much faster than doing a secondary dental rehabilitation. Okay. But that call, I think it's an individual call that we have to take. We have to talk to the patient and do it. Fine.
And then you see post radiation, the skin becomes fibrosed. Patients may get, trismus, and you have to. The soft tissue problems are much more.
I think overall patient also lose enthusiasm because of his radiation effect, his side effects, so much trouble. So patient also doesn't really come for dental rehabilitation unless they are non-malignant, they are not radiated. They will come for that.
Correct, ma'am.
Okay. And what else I was to ask you? Okay, so you have chosen which vessels you want to choose. You have chosen for this case.
Ma'am, for arterial anastomosis, facial artery, and for two vena comitans, one facial vein and one other tributary from internal jugular vein.
Okay. For all free flaps, you always do two veins, one artery and two veins?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And fibula, is it, it is better if you do two veins. But even if you do one vein for fibula, it is, I think most of the time it is adequate because when you are preparing your vessels, I think you will see a lot of sensation between these two veins. They are interconnected quite a lot. But doing two veins is, it's a good habit, no problem. But if you do, by chance, if you do one vein, you should not feel, oh my God, I have not done a second vein. Okay, so that scare should not be there because once you get into the habit of doing two veins, you're always worried that I have only done one vein. So it's not mandatory that you have to do every time two veins, especially for fibula because these veins are very huge veins.
Huge.
I literally call them Bombay water supply pipeline. They are so huge. So that's okay. what type of what suture material you use? What will you do first, artery or vein, and why?
Ma'am, first vein will be done and then artery. One vein, then artery, then last vein.
Okay, fine. Any particular reason?
So that once artery is finished, we will open the clamp. Ma'am.
Okay, fine. I mean, you don't have to keep it clamped. If you have done artery first, you will have to keep it clamped before you finish the veins. And it will just keep on pumping. So you need to keep the clamp long, and that artery sometimes doesn't like being clamped for a long. So you need to pour a lot of warm water, lignocaine, papaverine, and all that. That's
Yes.
okay. What suture you use and what magnification?
Ma'am,
I mean, you do it with microscope or you do it with loupes?
microscope, ma'am.
Microscope.
Yes.
And what type of suture? What suture?
Ma'am, 80 ethylon. 80 or 90, depending on the
80.
caliber.
Okay. And before you do the anastomosis, do you do your skin paddle inset or you do it after your anastomosis? So once the bone is fixed, what is your actions? I mean, overall steps.
Ma'am, first inset of the paddle and then
Bone fixation.
first
Okay.
bone fixation,
Then
paddle,
anastomosis.
and then anastomosis. Yes.
Okay. Once you do the anastomosis, okay, what precautions you will take before doing the anastomosis and after you have done anastomosis?
Ma'am, one thing is the patient should be warm and the wound should not get dried up. Vessel should not get desiccated. We'll keep it wet with the heparin saline spray. And it's 5 minutes before opening the clamp, I'll give IV heparin also in this patient.
Okay, how much?
5,000 international unit IV.
Okay, as
Yes,
a
ma'am,
bolus. Okay. No, before you choose, before you start your anastomosis, I think it's a good habit to check your lie of the vessels, move your neck, see your lie of the vessels, that it is, sometimes you get a vein which is way high up near the angle, though it is very good, you can't take it because the moment you turn the neck, that vessel may kink. So you need to have a nice gentle lie of the vessels. So you check that lie of the vessels, because in this patient you may get a plenty of pedicle, which you can practically may go to the transverse cervical also. The bone requirement is just middle third. But check your lie of the vessel, move the neck, and then decide at what level you would like to do that anastomosis. Okay, it's a good habit. Otherwise, sometimes you may have it in a little tension or it is too much, which may kink.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
There's one thing that I think
Yeah.
for all flaps where there is hardware fixation that you must do is you must first flush the artery with hep saline and see for the hep saline flowing out through the vein. Because any bony flap that you're fixing with hardware, you have a chance of accidentally or inadvertently injuring it during the screw placement or when the bone fragments are kept in a particular alignment. There won't be any flow of the heparin out. And this also helps you to flush out all the microthrombi from the the flap internal microcirculation. So it's my habit, whether I do scapular, DCIA, fibula, ALT with femur, especially for bone flaps, is to flush 5 to 10 ml of hep saline into the artery, and it should flow out freely through the vein. So you know that there is no kink in the pedicle anywhere. The pedicle isn't bent because the bone is bent. You have not gone through the pedicle when you were drilling. The screw is not impinging on the pedicle anywhere because the pedicle lies on the opposite side of the peroneal surface. You will never see it once you fix it and start suturing the intraoral thing. So any flap for that matter can, scapular, DCI, whatever. I would always flush with hep saline and then make sure there is good venous return. And then, as ma'am said, always look for how the pedicle is going to lie and how the artery and vein are going to come towards the pedicle for an acute kink, and only then do whatever you said. Because unless you do these things, you cannot undo them once the anastomosis is done. I think that's important.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, only thing I used to do that heparin solution irrigation initially, but now I don't do it. And when we divide the flap, just an suggestion that when you divide artery and vein, so usually we divide the vein between the lega clips. So the veins are sealed off on the flap side also. And the artery is plugged clamped only on the body side. Artery is left open in the flap. So that way, many times if the artery and vein are if the artery vein is full, it's easier to dissect the artery and vein within full venous system. Correct. Otherwise, fibular veins are they have so much interconnections. So that once they are deflated, it's difficult to find out where the connections are, and you may nick it at many places.
Correct.
So it's a good habit to have the venous system clamped and the arterial system open in the flap, so that your pedicle dissection, artery and vein separation becomes easier.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, yes, and I now I don't do heparin solution irrigation. I used to you do that before. So far never had a problem. So that's an individual preference. That's an individual preference.
2-3 cases.
It's an suggestion. It's a good precaution. So no, that's okay. It's a good suggestion. Okay. Okay. Once you have done the anastomosis, okay.
Yes.
I mean, you have put your suction drains. I hope before you start everything else, okay, in the neck. So what precautions you will take when you are putting an RVD drains?
Ma'am, it should not, the limb of the suction drain should not lie over the anastomosis, and then we will put only half suction or no suction. We'll not put full suction in that.
Why RVD is then bottle, that full suction can be there, so no problem. If you just take care that your section by chance does not slip and come on your pedicle, because sometimes by mistake, by chance it slips and sucks on your pedicle. It may just you require an re-exploration in a few hours time. Okay, yes. So take care that it does not slide in front of your anastomosis or lying very close to your anastomosis.
Yes.
Right? Okay. After this, what is your protocol?
Ma'am, after hemostasis is achieved and neck is closed, patient will be shifted to ICU. Then, ma'am, in post-operative period, I will maintain the position of neck and keeping the patient warm.
So you always write what neutral position, slightly right, left, in your how you feel the pedicle is comfortable. Okay, yes. So neutral position, fine. Maintain position. Warm, hydrated. How is the monitoring done?
Ma'am, we do clinical monitoring as well as monitoring with the biochemical monitoring with the flap glucose and the periphery glucose level ratio, ma'am. We do hourly and for first 24 hours, and after that 3 or 4 hourly, ma'am. And after 3 days we do 6 hourly. Up to 5 days we do monitoring.
What would be the signs that you require an exploration?
Ma'am, clinically, if capillary refill is either very slow or it is brisk, or and the blood flow is coming on prick, the blood is coming dark red. In that case, we need to explore. If flap turgor is increased, it is become swollen.
Okay. So it's a very good habit to first prick on the table. So sometimes the bleed may be fast, bright red, but fast and bright red. And sometimes it will be a little slow but bright red. Okay. So if you have the first prick on the table, you will know what to monitor it afterwards, because afterwards, if it is slow and red, the other person who is monitoring may get a little worried that it is coming very slowly. Okay. Yeah. So that's a baseline that you should do it on table so that you know how it is going to behave afterwards.
Yes.
Fine. And what else do you use post-operatively? 5,000 units, 8 hours.
Because this patient.
How do you monitor that?
With the prothrombin time, ma'am, and INR. And APTT also. PT and APTT for repairing.
Right.
And then passive chest physiotherapy will be given, DVT prevention stockings, and tracheostomy care. Tracheostomy will be removed once the edema is reduced. Rice tube feeding will be started on first post-op day, and gradually will shift to the oral feeding. flap donor side graft dressing will open on 5th day and subsequently as required. Donor side drain removal once the output is less than. Yes, ma'am.
Is it all patients you give IV heparin continuous infusion?
No,
All patients for 5 days?
No, ma'am. This patient is smoker, chronic smoker and diabetic.
All
No,
free
ma'am,
flap
not,
patients?
we don't give in all patients.
Okay.
IV patient only.
But it's,
If we see any problem intraoperatively or patient is having high
I think,
risk.
Okay. I don't know, different units have a different protocols that they follow. So that's fine with us. But you really need to, because to get that PTTK value on within 1 hour, by the time you get the values, I think your drip again, you will have to change the drip. I found it very difficult to manage with IV heparin continuous infusion.
Yes, ma'am.
So what, I mean, that's fine. Your protocol is there that you do it. But otherwise at many places, like us, we don't give anything after this except DVT prophylaxis, Clexin, OD. That too is a prophylactic thing. Otherwise, unless there is an event, we don't heparinize the patient afterwards. But that's a different unit will follow different protocol. What you are comfortable with, you can find it. But you really need to take care of that, those values, monitoring values.
Yes.
Otherwise, you may have somewhere bleeding somewhere else also. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine.
This patient is smoker and diabetic. That is why only I added.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we also don't give routinely, ma'am.
Okay, fine. But it's difficult to monitor. That's what I was saying.
Yes. Then for this,
I mean, I don't know what different protocols people. I mean, at what protocol is followed at Amrita? I have no idea. What protocol you follow?
For this thing, only Clexane 0.2 cc subcut, ma'am. No heparin.
Yeah. Otherwise, nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
We stopped Dexplan
Even for
10 years
diabetic.
back.
Yeah, because we have done one study that way in Tata with comorbidities, without comorbidities, with heparin, without heparin, and then we realized that your exploration rate is same. I think the technique that matters much. Since that time, we don't give anything post-operatively with them, even with the comorbidities. Okay, that's a departmental policy, so that's fine.
And the other thing is to keep the patient in slight hemodilution post-op. Don't be very aggressive in correcting blood.
So, what is your call on giving blood, Saurav? Your harvested fibula under tourniquet, but he has bled. The net dissection was there. The hemoglobin goes down. So, what would be your level? You think that you need to transfuse the patient?
Ma'am, cutoff value of 10 gram percentage.
Well, that's not the American guidelines. The American guidelines take 10 for elderly patients, patients with cardiac disease and things like that. But 8 is okay because you want some amount of hemodilution. You don't want to make the patient prothrombotic by giving them blood products. But the other hand is if the BP becomes so low, they'll start dope and NORAD. And
NORAD and everything.
So I don't know what is the right answer.
So
I don't do for.
So maybe around 7.58 your axle, I mean your hematocrit is around 27 or so, and that's the best viscosity that the blood can flow.
That's the best.
So your tolerance level is till that, but if the patient's pulse and the other parameters you take into account, and then if you feel that the patient needs blood, then give blood. But otherwise, we hold on for giving blood if there are no other factors that we check. Okay. Right.
Then I'll send. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Follow. Go ahead.
For adjuvant radiotherapy, after 6 to 8 weeks of surgery, total 66 grade dose will be given. And adjuvant chemotherapy, as per the histopathology report, if resection margins are positive or there is extracapsular nodal spread or neuro, lympho, or vascular invasion, in that case, we need to give chemotherapy also. That will be cisplatin. Or cisplatin can also be used as radiosensitizer in these patients.
I really don't think you need to know about the chemotherapy for your exam, okay? Because we are not really going to decide. That's a DNG decision which is taken in that. So nobody will really ask you what chemotherapy will be given and what dosage.
Yes.
But you need to be know that depending on final histopath, the patient may require radiation. Is almost sure in this patient he'll require.
Yes.
Whether he'll require concurrent or chemo also, that is the call taken in the DMG meet, taking all different aspects in that, extracapsular spread, perineural spread, and all that, and how many lymph nodes are positive.
Yes, ma'am.